The world in the 15th century was a place of boundaries. For Europeans, the map was a patchwork of known lands and vast, terrifying unknowns. The Great Silk Road, the artery of trade with the East, was becoming difficult and expensive. The legendary riches of Cathay and the Spice Islands were whispered in the courts of kings and the taverns of sailors. Imagine a Europe hungry for more wealth, more land, more power. It was a continent on the cusp of something extraordinary. A new kind of courage was brewing, a desire to sail right off the edge of the known world and into the realm of myth. This was the dawn of an era that would redraw the map forever. It was the beginning of the age of exploration, a time of incredible bravery and brutal ambition. This wasn't just about idle curiosity. It was a matter of national survival and immense profit. The powerful Ottoman Empire controlled the land routes to Asia, choking off the flow of spices, silks, and other luxuries that Europe's elite craved. Monarchs in Portugal and Spain, eager to outmaneuver their rivals, began to look to the sea. They wondered if there was another way, a sea route, a path around Africa, or perhaps a daring voyage west across the untamed Atlantic. They began to invest in new technologies, faster, more resilient ships like the Caravel, and better navigational tools like the astrolabe and compass. These tools gave them the confidence to face the vast, blue emptiness. The air was electric with possibility. Think of the stories sailors told one another. Tales of sea monsters, large enough to swallow a ship whole, of boiling seas at the equator and winds that would never let a ship return home. To set sail was to gamble with your life, yet the pull of the unknown was stronger than the fear. For a young sailor in Lisbon or a seasoned captain in Seville, the ocean wasn't just a barrier, it was a promise. It promised unimaginable wealth for those who could find the source of the spice trade. It promised glory for the nation that could claim new lands. It was a siren call, and a generation of bold and ruthless men were ready to answer it. This period was a perfect storm of ambition, innovation, and necessity. The Renaissance had sparked a new way of thinking, a belief that humanity could achieve great things. Feudal kingdoms were coalescing into powerful nation-states, each competing for dominance on the world stage. Religious fervor also played its part, with a powerful desire to spread Christianity to new lands. All these forces converged on the docks of Western Europe. The ships were being built. The crews were being assembled. The stage was set for one of the most dramatic and transformative chapters in human history, a period where a few daring voyages would connect worlds that had been separate for millennia. Among the legions of explorers, a few names stand out like giants. Christopher Columbus, the Genoese navigator, is perhaps the most famous. He was obsessed with a radical idea to reach the east by sailing west. For years, he begged the courts of Europe to fund his audacious plan. Finally, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand of Spain agreed. In 1492, with 3 small ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, he sailed into the vast, uncharted Atlantic. He wasn't just a navigator, he was a salesman, a fanatic, and a man driven by a belief that he was an instrument of destiny. His journey was a colossal gamble, one that would change the course of history in ways he could never have imagined. While Columbus sailed west, the Portuguese were determined to find a route around Africa. Vasco da Gama was the man for the job. In 1497, he led a fleet from Lisbon on a perilous journey down the African coast. His mission was to do what no one had done before, round the Cape of Good Hope and sail all the way to India. Da Gama was a tough, often brutal commander. He had to be. His crew faced scurvy, storms, and hostile local rulers. But after months at sea, his ships finally dropped anchor in Calicut, India. He had done it. He had opened a direct sea route to the source of the spice trade, a breakthrough that would make Portugal a global superpower. Then, there was Ferdinand Magellan, a Portuguese explorer sailing for Spain, who embarked on the most ambitious voyage of all. His goal was to prove the world was round by circumnavigating it. In 1519, he set off with 5 ships and a crew of over 200 men. Their journey was an epic of suffering and endurance. They faced mutinies, starvation, and the terrifying, seemingly endless expanse of a new ocean Magellan named the Pacific. Magellan himself would not complete the journey. He was killed in a conflict in the Philippines, but one of his ships, the Victoria, eventually limped back to Spain in 1522, with only 18 survivors. They were the first humans to circle the globe. These men were not saints. They were complex figures driven by a mixture of courage, greed, and faith. Columbus's arrival in the Americas heralded a brutal chapter of conquest and disease for its native peoples. Da Gama used his cannons to intimidate and force trade in the Indian Ocean. Magellan's determination came at the cost of countless lives. Yet, their sheer audacity is undeniable. They commanded small wooden ships across immense, unknown oceans, facing down fear and mutiny. They were the titans of their age, and their voyages shattered the old maps and forced humanity to see the world in a completely new light. What drove these men to risk everything? The answer can be boiled down to three powerful motivations: God, gold, and glory. The pursuit of gold was perhaps the most straightforward driver. European economies were hungry for precious metals to mint coins and fund their growing states and armies. They dreamed of finding legendary sources of gold, like the fabled city of El Dorado. But gold wasn't the only treasure. The spice trade was the real prize. Spices like pepper, cloves, and nutmeg were worth more than their weight in gold in Europe. They were used not just to flavor food but to preserve it and for medicine. Controlling this trade meant controlling a fire hose of wealth. The second motivation was glory. In the competitive world of Renaissance Europe, fame and prestige were paramount. A successful explorer could return home a hero, elevated from commoner to nobleman. For the monarchs who funded them, new discoveries meant immense national pride and power. Claiming new territories on the map was the ultimate power play. Spain and Portugal became bitter rivals, racing to claim lands and trade routes. This competition fueled a cycle of exploration, as each new discovery prompted their rivals to fund an even more ambitious voyage. Glory was a powerful currency for kings and captains alike, a chance to write their names into the history books forever. Finally, there was God. The Age of Exploration coincided with a period of intense religious conviction and conflict in Europe. The Reconquista, the centuries-long effort by Christian kingdoms to push Muslim rule out of the Iberian Peninsula, had just concluded in Spain. This crusading spirit was carried across the oceans. European monarchs and the explorers they sent saw it as their sacred duty to spread Christianity to the peoples of the world. Missionaries often traveled with the explorers, ready to convert the populations of the newly discovered lands. This religious zeal provided a powerful moral justification for their expeditions, framing conquest as a holy mission to save souls. These three motives were deeply intertwined. An explorer could seek gold to enrich his king and country, bringing them glory, while simultaneously believing he was doing God's work by opening those lands to Christianity. Columbus wrote extensively about his desire to use the wealth from his voyages to fund a new crusade to retake Jerusalem. For the men on the ships, the promise of personal wealth was a huge motivator, but so was the idea of serving their king and their God. This potent cocktail of greed, ambition, and faith was the engine that powered the Age of Exploration, pushing ships further and further into the great unknown. The discoveries made during the Age of Exploration utterly remade the world. The most immediate impact was on the map itself. Within a few decades, the world known to Europeans had doubled in size. Two entire continents, the Americas, were added to their consciousness. The Pacific Ocean was revealed to be a vast expanse, and the true size and shape of Africa and Asia were finally understood. Cartographers worked feverishly to incorporate this flood of new information, creating new, more accurate world maps. These maps were not just geographical documents, they were statements of power, showing the new lands claimed by European crowns. The old mythical world of monsters and flat edges was replaced by a globe that was, for the first time, knowable and navigable. The global economic landscape was transformed. The opening of new sea routes shattered the old trade monopolies held by Italian city-states and the Ottoman Empire. Wealth and power shifted westward to the Atlantic nations of Spain, Portugal, England, and France. The Columbian Exchange began, a vast transfer of plants, animals, diseases, technologies, and ideas between the Old World, meaning Europe, Asia, and Africa, and the New World, the Americas. Europe received potatoes, maize, and tomatoes, which revolutionized its agriculture and helped fuel a population boom. The Americas, in turn, received wheat, horses, and cattle, but also devastating diseases like smallpox, which wiped out millions of indigenous people. This new contact had profound and often tragic consequences for cultures around the globe. For the indigenous peoples of the Americas, the arrival of Europeans was a catastrophe. They faced conquest, enslavement, and the destruction of their civilizations. In Africa, the demand for labor on the new colonial plantations in the Americas fueled the horrific expansion of the transatlantic slave trade, tearing societies apart. In Asia, European powers used their naval superiority to establish trading posts and colonies, gradually undermining local rulers and economies. The Age of Exploration marked the beginning of a long and complex era of European colonialism and global dominance. The legacy of this era is all around us today. It created a single, interconnected world for the first time in human history. The global trade networks, cultural exchanges, and political power imbalances that began 500 years ago continue to shape our modern world. The languages we speak, the foods we eat, and the very makeup of our populations are all In part, a result of these daring and dangerous voyages, the age of exploration was a period of incredible human achievement and immense human suffering. It stands as a powerful testament to our capacity for both discovery and destruction, and its echoes continue to resonate in the 21st century.